In this video, we are going to use some sales data, some customer data, and some product data to create an interactive dashboard for our business here. And you can see in this first tab here, this is the sales transaction tab. We have some information on sales order ID, sales order date, the employee ID, customer ID, the product code, sales order quantity, and then the product sale price. Okay, so we have a variety of data here in the sales transaction tab. We also have information about each of the customers, and so this is linked to the sales transaction data by the customer ID. So customer ID 2001 is the name of the company is Beverage Distributors, and they are located in Des Moines, Iowa. Okay, and then on the product tab, we have product codes. And so it looks like this is a company that brews and sells beer products. So we have Pale Ales, Imperial IPAs. I'm not a big fan of IPAs at all. They're too hoppy for me. I don't enjoy the hops. I'm more of a lager and a stout stout fan. I think my favorite beer is probably Guinness. But we're working with some beer data here, and what we want to do is we want to create like a visual dashboard for ourselves so that we can see how each one of our products are doing, and we want to be able to ask that question by state and by date and by a variety of different factors. We want to basically be able to see our data quickly in a visual format and toggle different regions and different dates, and so we can kind of quickly go through and get a sense of what's going on. All right, so how do we accomplish this? All right, so the first thing is we're going to create some pivot tables. Okay, so I am just going to click in this first table. This is the sales transaction tab. Click anywhere in the table, and I'm going to say insert pivot table. And just like we have in previous labs, we get the standard pop-up window for the pivot table. We're going to pick the table or range that is highlighted on the screen. The only thing that we're going to do here that's a little different from previous pivot tables is we're going to check this box down here that says add this data to the data model. And what this does is it's telling Excel that the pivot table we're going to create, we want you to use data that's from all three tabs, not just the current sales transaction tab. We want you to link together the data that's in the customers tab and the products tab with the sales transaction data tab so that we can kind of match up customer IDs with maybe their state location. All right, so we're going to check this box, add this data to the data model, click OK, and we will get our standard pivot table set up here in a new sheet. And the one thing that's different now, because we selected that data model option, is if you click on the All button here under the pivot tables field, now we have access to all of the fields from each of the three tabs. Okay, so that will allow us to do some cool things. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to create a table where the rows are composed of the different product types. Okay, so that's going to come from the products tab here. So under products tab, we have a product description field, and we're going to drag that down into the rows. And what do we want to know about each of these products? Well, we want to know the quantity, right? So how many did we sell for each of these products? So I'm going to drop this down into the values field. And so now we see Imperial IPAs. I don't know why anybody drinks those. Sold 61 units. And then the Imperial Stout sold 258 units. The Stouts, my favorite probably, sold 190. IPAs were pretty popular, 235. And so now we have a sense of how our sales break down in terms of units sold across our different product lines. But what if we wanted to know, well, how many distinct orders did we have? So maybe we had a single customer order that ordered both IPAs and Imperial Stouts. And so how many unique orders are we processing? So if we wanted to, we can replicate this table, but instead of having the quantity sold, we'll remove that field from the values, and now we want sales order IDs in here. So now we have the number of sales orders by the sum of the sales orders. I don't think that's what we want, right? So what this is doing is it's going to the sales order ID field, and it's treating 20,062 as a number when really that's an ID number. So we don't really want that. What we want is a count. If we want a count, we have to change the settings of the value field. So we're going to say right click on the pivot table, click value field settings, and instead of sum of sales order IDs, we want a count. Okay, so that makes more sense. All right, so we know that 10 unique orders came in where somebody ordered some amount of IPAs or imperial IPAs. Okay, and then let's say we wanted to do something similar, but instead of breaking it down by product line, we want to break this down by date. So let's change this a little bit. And let's change our rows. Let's remove the rows, or let's remove product description from the rows, and let's add the dates. So let's say we want to have the sales order date, and let's put this in the rows. Okay. All right. So now we see in 2020 we had 101 unique sales orders and 48 unique sales orders in 2019. We could also, if we wanted to, we could combine the quantity sold and the unique sales orders into the same pivot table. All we would have to do is go to, we want to add the quantity sold from the sales transaction tab into the values field. And so now we have a combination of the two pivot tables above. The other thing I don't like is I don't like that we have these. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking while I'm recording here. I don't like how we have this data kind of grouped. So we have 2019, and Excel is automatically grouping this for us into fourth quarter and then by month. What I'm really interested in is I want to see the exact dates. I don't want to see it grouped. So to do that, we need to ungroup these data points. And so all I did was on the field here, I right-clicked within the pivot table and I just said ungroup. Okay. So now we have what we want. Now we can get into building our dashboard, right? So to build our dashboard, all we have to do is go to Pivot Table Analyze at the top, click into the pivot table that we want to use to create our chart. And to do that, we're going to say Insert Pivot Table Chart. And so we're going to say Pivot Chart. And let's go with just a standard column chart here. And this will give us our first item for our dashboard here. And I'm going to decrease the size here so that we can kind of see the whole thing. I want to do something similar for this pivot table. So I'm going to say Insert Pivot Chart. And again, I'm going to use a column. And I'm just going to drag this down. Oops, I accidentally hit undo there. So I'm just going to drag this down underneath. And then we could also create one for this. And so let's say Insert Pivot Chart. And let's do a line graph this time. Let's see what this looks like. All right. And so now we have our third line graph here. And now we have 3 interactive charts. Interactive because we can click on these little filter menus and pick specific dates. If we wanted to, we could pick specific product lines here for this chart. But if we wanted to make it really easy for ourselves, we can insert what is called a slicer. So we're going to say pivot table analyze, and now this menu pivot table analyze only appears if you are in a pivot table. So if the active cell has to be a cell within a pivot table for this menu to appear. So I'm going to say pivot table analyze, I'm going to say insert slicer, and I want to click the all tab here, and I want to be able to slice by customer state, and I want to be able to slice by, let's see, maybe should we use product description? That might be a good one. All right, so I want to slice it by customer state and product description. All right, so now we have these little menu buttons. So these Excel, Microsoft, they call these slicers. Really what it is just a visual button situation for filtering the data. Okay, so this is, and we want to make sure that this corresponds to, so the one thing we want to make sure of is that when we click these buttons, which are our filter buttons, that they update all of the pivot, or all the pivot charts. Okay, and you can see right now, as I click these different buttons and select different product lines, only this chart is updating, which is not what we want. What we want to do so that this slicer box is linked to all the tabs in the dashboard, or all the charts in the dashboard, is we want to right click here, and we are going to click report connections. So we're going to, on the slicer, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say report connections. And so in this little pop-out window, we can say, well, what do we want this slicer to be linked to? Just the third pivot table, which is the one down here, or do we want it to be linked to all of them? So we're just going to check the other two, click OK, and now when we pick one of these, all of the tables will update. And you can see as I unselect some of these and only pick, let's say, wheat beers. Now these two tables are only displaying wheat beer sales and sales order IDs, and then this chart is only counting wheat beer sales by date. Okay, we could further isolate wheat sales or wheat beer sales if we wanted to look at, let's say, exclude everything except maybe Texas. Maybe we want to look at Texas alone. So now we have wheat beer sales in Texas. Okay, so just some of the cool things that you can do with these slicers to make your data more interactive and more interesting visually.